Oh, goodness, made it. Hey, goodness to you, goodness to you. And I say goodness, not knowing whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, as well as it's a good thing I was able to get on. Man, we're having technology day today. We've had that before. But yeah, today was a technology day. And I had to keep, but let me say to you also, because I just love how, we just talk and being upfront and as well as I like to give a lesson on preparation and uh and um and life. Okay, and so I kept getting kept having some fires that I needed to put out, and I kept saying, okay, I can do the broadcast, but I wasn't able to. I moved it, and then I want to have the graphics in there because I think that they because I could have done it. I could have been on time at 1, but I think that the words and the graphic make a difference. Because so thank you, Victor. Yeah, man, glad you're back, and so that's why I have kept moving it. One more spot. So thank you all, for coming back, waiting for me, Roger Carroll. I hope you're still there. Because I just seen a question on Facebook. Let me quickly go to Facebook Live to the actual page and see what's going on there. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Well, at least I know I'm on and it's me and Vic. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, let's yeah, somebody's trying to type. What is this? Give me a second here. I'm gonna do one more technical thing. Let's move this. Okay, and then let's get right here. Okay, and we're on. All right, Vic, me and you so far, but let's see where we go. But anybody who's going to be watching the broadcast, welcome to Glue Wednesday. And Glue Wednesday is created based on so many people saying that Wednesday is Hump Day, and hump having a connotation of the need to get over. I decided that we don't need to get over, but what we need to do is keep it together. And so that's why I created Glue Wednesday, based on the premise that Wednesday is the middle of a traditional 7-day work week that keeps the week beginning and the week end together. So it's the glue. And then my glue is putting us in a wonderful prayerful mode. And that is GLUE, God's love undoes everything. Not that God's love will tear things apart, but that what is torn apart, God's love will put it back together and keep it together. And so that's what we need to be doing, is focusing on ways to keep it together. Speaking of keep it together, Vic is asking, how's my knee? I'm keeping it together. And you know what, Vic, that actually was a part of my technology slow down today because I can't move as fast. And so, that's the beauty of God and of our life, with the adjustments that you have to make. And so, okay, Roger Carroll is on the phone and it's not coming up. Well, Roger Carroll, disconnect and restart that, because the thread that I had you on was talking about when it was going to be ready. And so I went on and cut that one off, and I started it. I force started it on this one. So Roger Carroll, go off and come back on. All right. And then Bruce, yeah, great news. I know you're listening, talking about my knee. Y'all, today is that I'm making the broadcast is Wednesday. And so Tuesday I had my first post-op visit appointment with my doctor, and they were thrilled. I'll end up putting in writing to other people, but they had a forecast. And see, again, God's love, y'all. Watch out. You can't make this up. But they had a forecast. My operation was September 8th, right? They had a forecast that by yesterday, my knee would be bending 85 degrees. My knee is bending 94. Hello. See that, that's what it's all about. That's why I laugh when people talk about, wish you a speedy recovery and blah, blah, blah. You're going to be jumping double dutch, which I used to I laugh at the person who wrote that. I say, good, that's good news, because I couldn't jump double dutch before I had the operation. But that's what I'm saying. Always think about anything is based on the statistics from the past. That does not mean you. So you have to deal with your situation. And I had to deal with my surgical situation and my intent for rehab. And so that becomes the key, is making sure that you're doing what you need to do. So similar to how Roger Carroll said, now she's on her laptop and she's got it. So you have to do what works for you. But look, y'all are in good position, and we start in a half an hour past the original start time. So just in case you've already got 2 o'clock budgeted in your day, my message today is actually a lot more me giving you, just delivering. I'm just going to deliver this thing, and then as you put comments, I won't be asking. I won't be requesting. I don't have any prepared requested things for you to put in the thread. But as you do, I will then respond to those. But I just, this message, that's what I'm saying. That's the other thing about this message, is that it just kept getting longer and longer. And more things to share. So I got my, it's always important to say, don't penalize the people who are on time. But again, we're not running late, y'all. We're just doing a new thing. All right. So what you got, Roger Carroll? This worked for me because I got to you got to the broadcast. See, and that's what do we need to do? Eliminate the word late and recognize that you got here on time. And because I want to look at the video now, because I don't know that I said late. But if I did, then I have to now catch myself, because I normally say it's not late, it's on time when something is supposed to happen, and that's really when it usually happens. So let me talk to you today, and if you've seen it, my topic today is: are you afraid to be right? In fact, yeah, there's something for the thread, that one thing, and even if you're watching the video, just put in yes or no. Are you afraid to be right? And you can put a Y or an N. Are you afraid to be right? And there's a time delay between the live feed, which is why you see me pausing. There's a time delay between the thing goes in, there you go, and what comes up on StreamYard. And so Roger Carroll said it depends. And she's not talking about, senior citizen diapers. It depends. Okay. What about you, Vic and Bruce? Are you afraid to be right? And again, those of you who are watching the broadcast, put yours in there so as the message, because I got a twist on it. So as the message unfolds, now you can look at your response, and it's, the thing is, oh man, this is beautiful. When we respond, we get the chance to weigh our response against the message. And that will either encourage us to continue to think that way, persuade us to change our minds, or more importantly, empower us to reconsider where we stand, which doesn't mean that we change or continue. It's just food for thought. All right. So Victor says that doom is always right. So, but does that mean you're not afraid to be right? Okay. So and then Bruce said, not afraid and willing to listen to another view. Okay. All right, good. Thank y'all for those answers. Okay. So, and here's why I asked that, because you see, we tend to think that the fear is of being wrong. So let me start you off with the bad news. People tend to, we tend to think that I'm not afraid to be right. No, but I'm afraid to be wrong. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Let me get Vic's answer. I'm not afraid to be right. Why? Great. Okay. All right. And so again, we tend to think that most people tend to think that the fear is that people actually are afraid to be wrong. But let me start you off with the bad news. The bad news is that the opposite of right is not wrong, but left. You don't have a right and a wrong side. You have a right and a left side. See, you are already right. You're already right. Everyone is. It's because, and you're right because it's based on the information you have to make the decision, which you get from where you sit. See, so your perspective is is what makes you right. Look, from where I'm sitting, this is what I see. So how can I be categorized as wrong when this is what I see? So that's why I say, everyone is right because it's based on the information you have to make the decision from where you sit, which now makes me look at what Bruce wrote about I'm ready to listen to another view. See how we can't make this stuff up? But this is also why, again, if you're watching the broadcast, my last time saying this, now you can see why when you put answers in the thread, how they end up making a connection that gives you a kind of another jolt and way of receiving the message. Okay. All right. So anyway, so let's see. And then Roger Carroll said it depends. Yeah, what? It depends on what information you have. Again, see, and this is the beauty. See, sometimes we have an instant answer, but as we grow, we have to learn. And you're going to see this message in here earlier about controlling your vocabulary. You have to slow down before you answer sometimes, and you're going to see that makes a huge difference. And so, what if Vic said, "Not afraid to be right"? And why? Yeah, but not afraid to be right. And here's one of the reasons why. Because it depends on where you sit. Thank you. Okay. So anyway, now see, once you are seated in where you getting your perspective from, and you're right. Now what happens is you have to weigh the options and decide what path you'll take. Not only, let me tell you, will you choose the right path, but you'll also choose the left. And LEFT is let's encourage free thinking. You will choose the right path and you will also choose the left. Let me get, oops, I'm going to try to move this branding thing from over here. Okay, there we go. I run this. I run the technology. Okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, because still with the new information that you've learned, you see it as the path for you. You deserve the right to see things through your spirit and your benefit. Your choice now becomes who and what you want on your path. And I think that's where the fear pops in. See, we're afraid to make the choices based on how someone else may feel. That's what happens sometimes. We're afraid to make the choices, based on how someone else may feel. Where'd my thing go? Okay, I got to make the choice there we go, to get back to my comments. All right. Hey, what's going on, Angie? Angie Drum, welcome in, my skydiving friend. Good to see you. All right. Yeah. Hey, friend. All right. My skydiving friend, Angie Drum. Got to get her picture, her name up there real quick. All right. So anyway, so where was I? I'm going to just repeat that last thing. Your choice now depends on who and what you want in your past. And I think that's where the fear pops in. You see, we're afraid to make the choices based on how someone else will feel. And you got to see that this is different. Because I said, well, we should consider how someone else's feel. You have to see that this is different from empathy and compassion. And this is where the good news comes in. And the good news is that you've got to put your list together. You've got to put your list together and recognize that I have to put my list together of why I feel right. Or do you? See, maybe you don't have to put your list together. First, Angie said, preach it. Then I want to see what Vic said, because he had sometimes being right does not mean it's a good thing. It depends on the subject. Amen. Thank you, Vic. See, that's what I'm talking about. This is where the beauty of the threads come in, because they add to the message. Thank you. And it goes back to what Roger Carroll said. It depends. It depends, okay? So, but you got to put your list together, or do you? You see, I believe that right requires, if not remembering everything that you say and do, knowing who you are so that you can remember what you say and do. And so he said, now we're going to get into where it depends. See, I don't have to be right. My saying is I don't have to be right. I have to be sporty. I say a lot. I'm a speaker. I speak for a living. So I say a lot of things. Do you think I can remember everything I say? No. And nobody remembers everything they say. But the truth is, because I know who I am, I may not remember everything that I say and do, but because I know who I am, I know what I would say and what I would do. So if someone misquotes me, I can easily say, nope, that is not something that I said. Because I know who I am and I know that that would not come out of my mouth. That's me. That's my right. So that's what I believe right requires, is knowing who you are, so that when something happens, you can know what you would say or what you would do. You see, there's a line that's most commonly misquoted as being out of the Bible, and that is, "To thine own self be true." And it's funny, people, whoa, wait, that is in the Bible. Actually, no, it's not. That's from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. "To thine own self be true." But we tend to think it comes out of the Bible. Well, here's why. One of the things is, William Shakespeare, we confuse it with his quotes, but he used over 2,000 Bible verses in his writing. So that's why we tend to think "to thine own self be true" comes out of the Bible, but it does not. But again, my point is, I'm true to myself. I know who I am. So since I know who I am, you can't fool me into saying that I said something that I know I did not say. So continue, as you'll see, I'm going to be telling you, continue to know who you are, because like Shakespeare, let me put together, when I started my business, I created what I considered my basic beliefs, and I called them sportyisms. They were three of them, and they were built on the pavement, the walls, and the people on my path. Okay, just jumping in. I got to get my homegirl in there, Deborah Lorick. True to self. When you speak truth, you don't have to remember. You will know. And that's the thing. There's another saying that if you tell the truth, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember a lie. So thank you, Deborah. Yeah, and hi to you too. But yeah, be true to yourself. So when you speak, you don't have to remember, but you will know that you are telling the truth. And then you get to say hello. Uh-huh. Okay. So I created 3 sportyisms that I use still to this day. Okay. And I call them my pavement, my walls, and my people. And this is how I'm saying to you, I want you to frame your being right. First of all, my pavement is sportyism number 1, which is give. Sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you've received. Give. Sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you've received. Before I move on with that, I want to say what Angie said. Each person's truth may vary, though. Their truth doesn't have to be my truth. And see how the reason I stopped and put her a comment on there, because that's what we're talking about. And so you're about to see how I'm showing you that my pavement is give. Sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you receive. So beautiful. I'll come back to you, Angie, on that. All right. But using just my gift of poetry, okay? I started out writing poetry when I was 14 years old. But I'm going to take you back to when I was 12 years old, and I learned typing in junior high school 43. So there's a shout out to you, Deborah Lorick, on there. She's from my junior high school 43. But also a shout out to my good friend Renee Green, who I know will be on the broadcast later, because we used to sit next to one another in typing class, and she was always the one that pushed me, because she and I always would race. She would always, actually, there's only one time I think where I beat her in accuracy. And we were kind of split in speed, but she always beat me in accuracy. So shout out to Renee, shout out to Deborah, and junior high school 43. Now I'm gonna connect that. So that's 12. 14, I start writing my poetry. So by the time I got to high school, I had created my side business of typing term papers and reports with editing. So I could type you could give me your rough draft. I can type your term paper and I would edit it while I was typing it. And I continue to do the same thing in college. This is sportyism number 1. I was giving, and this is what I'm saying. You catch up to what you receive. So then when I got to college, I added personalized poetry, where I would write people a poem to cheer them up, etc. One time I did a line of poetry called what did I call them? Poverty, poverty inspired Valentine's Days cards. But for anybody who didn't have a Valentine, I wrote them a poem based on their name. Okay, but then I took that from college, and then when I went to the Wall Street Journal, I started working as a messenger, and I started in January 1975. By that December 1975, we had a department of 13. I said to my boss, I said, look, I wrote a poem about our department, and I want to read it at the Christmas party. And that's shout out to my manager at the time. That was Sam. Was that Sam? No, that was Joe Fiorentino. Rest in peace, my guy. But also Sam Postman would later become one of my greatest bosses and mentor. I'll be seeing him this weekend. Anyway, I digress so I can progress. But anyway, so I wrote a poem that involved 13 people at our Christmas party. So you see how this is still tagging back to 12 typing in junior high school, giving of my gift, because that poem went from being 13 people in 1975 to where the party got bigger and bigger as more people wanted to get in and do the networking. And that poem got to where I was writing a poem. It was 70 people in that poem. And I'd always give everybody, 4 to 5 lines. And then so over my 18-year career at the Wall Street Journal, see, that was giving of my personal gift. And this is how it flourished. And over my 18 years of Wall Street Journal career, I had 7 promotions and 8 job titles. So, and that experience is what has blessed me to envision and now manage my own business. Do you see sportyism number 1? Give, sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you've received. You see, God gave me this gift of writing poetry. And so in doing it, I would have been able to catch up and, really seeing how the gift has been a blessing to me. Because, think about it. I never said, I'm typing in junior high school. This is going to be great. I just did it. And that's what I encourage you to do. Just sometimes you just have to do certain things. So thank you, Angie. Yes, it is beautiful. And then John is coming in from Jean, they pronounce it in French because he's in Ivory Coast, Africa. So thank you for joining us as well. Okay. So that's what I encourage you to look. What's your pavement? What's your pavement? Mine has always been giving, because I know that most people say give and you shall receive. I say give. Sooner or later, you'll catch up to what you receive. Share your gift, y'all. That's one way that you will always be right. And that's why I laugh when Angie wrote that, because each person's truth will be different, will vary. Their truth doesn't have to be yours. No, you have to give according to what you have received. And that's where your blessing will be able to come from. Excellent time. Thank you. Thank you, Vic. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. And that's what we want to do, is be able to pull these stories together and look at your past. Now, let me tell you, I still have people disagreeing on how I operate my business, but I still like my pavement. And it's not because I refuse to listen, and so I stick to my old ideas, but it's because I choose to listen, and then I stick to my evolved beliefs. I have what I call evolved belief, which is why sportyism number 2 is important. And those are my walls. Sportyism number 2, listen to the paragraph, not the sentence. And this thing, now get ready, Angie, because this talks about what you just said. See, we've heard the cliche, if these walls could talk, the stories they would tell. If these walls could talk, the stories that they would tell. But I'm going to position myself by putting Angie's thing up here first, that everybody's truth is different. And then I'm going to introduce my saying that instead of if these walls could talk, the stories they would tell, then I want to say if these walls would listen, the truths that they could tell. Bam! Everybody's truth is different, which is also back to what Deborah said. When you speak the truth, you don't have to remember. You still just have to know. Amen? Yes, amen. Okay, so if these walls would listen, see, you have to listen, and then that way you can tell the truth instead of the story. Listening is the number one communication skills, y'all. But what you have to be able to hear is you have to hear the enemy while understanding God. Perfect timing on the amen, Vic. You have to hear the enemy while understanding God. And let me tell you something, it's actually very easy to hear the enemy because he knows that he can't beat you from afar. An enemy knows that he has to get up close and make moves that make you start to believe that you can't win. So let me fast forward. In other words, the enemy speaks through the people who are closest to you, the ones that you relax your guard with. You see, in choosing your messengers carefully, I think you also have to reference check the choices that your messengers make. You're with me on that? You'll always hear me say choose your messengers carefully. But I also want to say to you, when you choose your messengers, check their references for their choice of messengers, because that's part of how you're choosing your messenger. Because what is their source? If they're going to be your source, you're going to be connected to theirs. And so that makes a difference. So why listen to the paragraph? Okay. Ooh, listen. Come on, tantalizing. Right. And I'm gonna walk right into this. Your question with this. Why is listening the key? Why? Because when you cut people off, see, if you don't listen to the paragraph instead of the sentence, when you cut people off, they get the chance to retrench, retract, and reword what they said. See, if you cut somebody off before they finish, they say, "Oh, this ain't going." No. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. This is what I was saying. This is what I see. So if you cut them off, they get to retrench, retract, and then reword what they said. When you allow them to finish what they said, then you've actually just heard what they mean. See, I am the master of listening. I listen so I can hear what you mean, not what you said. That's why if I go back to listening being the key, if I listen to not just a good word but each word so I can know what you mean. And I actually thought I had a slide that was going to show you that you just heard what they mean, but I didn't get that one up, so I got you go right to master of listening. All right, but tell it. Okay, we got to get those in there. Get those in there. All right. But this is what I'm saying. The reason I'm the master of listening is after listening, I will re-listen to this broadcast. Amen. Thank you, Rhonda Carroll. All right. But after listening, I'm empowered to answer by controlling my vocabulary rather than allowing my vocabulary to control you. Oh, okay. Let me go back. I thought I had that up there, but I didn't. I don't want you to see that line yet. Okay. But you heard me say that. There's a good thing I said it earlier. Because who was it was talking about? I think it was that you, Bruce? But anyway, I said, yeah, you have to control your vocabulary. Watch what you say, okay? But control your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. See, I'm also empowered not to respond because I've listened to what you meant. And now that I've heard what you mean, I can hear that we're not meant to share a path because I understand where God is guiding me. You see what I'm saying? So that, yeah, I heard what you said. In fact, I heard what you meant. But at the same time, I understand what God is guiding me to do. And sometimes I have to then choose to listen to my walls and the truths that they tell me. Once God shows me that, hey, Sporty, this is what you believe, and then this is what so-and-so says, they don't believe it. I'm not there to change your mind. You have didn't I say everybody's right? You have the right to think that way. And if your right is based on your perspective of where you sit, how can I say that you're wrong? I really can't. All I can do is recognize that I have the right to see it from my perspective. Angie said it earlier, you have a different truth. And that's why the boundaries are beautiful, because and there's two things with that: boundaries and guidelines. See, because boundaries say stop, and sometimes you got to say to somebody, no, stop. You got to set your boundaries. This is who I am. This is what I believe. Stop. But don't forget guidelines as well, y'all, because guidelines say caution. Guidelines say, okay, I'm going to listen to what you're saying. I'm going to try this, but let me make sure that it fits with who I am and where I want to go with this. Okay. Let me see what you got there, Vic. Conversation is over. I understand your way. I have mine. See, it's the old cliche and agree to disagree. We say we can do it, but it's actually not a very easy thing to do because we still have, we're hardwired on that opinion that we had. And so sometimes we may get bitter that the other person doesn't agree with us when in fact they have their right. They have boundaries that say this is who they are. And so therefore I don't need to charge their boundaries just as much as I don't want them to charge mine. And that really becomes where it is. So as we start to wind down, so that's two. That's listening to the paragraph, not the sentence. And then I choose to still listen to my walls and the truths that they tell me. And so that's why my sportyism number 3. Oh, I knew I had it in there. I forgot to switch it up where it was in the slide. Okay. Control your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. So you can now see it. All right. But then my third sportyism, and still the base of my business, is the people. We always wish today was tomorrow, except when we're with loved ones. Then we wish that tomorrow was yesterday. We always wish today were tomorrow, except when we're with loved ones. Then we wish that tomorrow was yesterday. You see, every moment really is all that I have and cherish. I do. I really cherish every single moment of my life with myself and with you. And I'm comfortable. Therefore, that's why I'm actually comfortable with death, because I know that I'm not in charge of keeping you alive. I'm on the team assigned to bringing and sharing joy into your life. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not in charge of keeping you alive. I'm on the team assigned to bringing you joy and sharing joy in your life. So that's why I am comfortable with death, but more importantly, it's not about death, as I'm comfortable with life. I'm comfortable with every moment that we share, and I'm in that moment because that moment is for you and I. And that's the key. I know that God will decide how this is going to work out. And when that happens, I have to, because and I know it's another one of those cliches. And I think maybe it's one that we should kind of back off, where we tend to say, well, the person who cries the most at the funeral is the one who did the person the most wrong. Not necessarily, but it could be the person that wish that they had shared a different type of last moment, or maybe they had an opportunity. I'm going to be, I was in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and I was within 2 hours of a person I hadn't seen in 25 years. And I said, no need. And he was in Ohio. He and she were in Ohio. I said, I can't be this close and then not come see you. So I went to see them. So those types of things sometimes work into it as well. Okay. Anyone else's life is not my responsibility. It's not. And that's some of the weight that we can take off our shoulders, y'all. That's another place where we can be right. Because a lot of times people want to make us feel like, that we should be more, concerned with taking care of somebody else. You should take care of someone, but you got to take care of you. And thank you, Vic. It's not true. Thank you. Right. I cried. Yeah. Just because you cry does not mean that you are regretting what your relationship was. That's my point. Thank you, Vic. And you don't even have to, you got to recognize that, again, someone else's perspective. Someone has decided on that cliche that the person that cries the most is the one that did the person bad. Hey, they're right. Okay. They're right. Because from where they sit, that's what it equals. So guess what? That's the type of stuff that's going on in their world. See, they know that to be true of how they mourn someone else. The way people grieve is none of my business. That's the truth. And everybody should grieve in their own way. And there's another thing that we think we got to be wrong about, but no, you have the right to grieve in your own way. And sometimes people are afraid to be right. Oh, too soon to tell a joke, And who knows? It depends. You don't know my relationship with the deceased, and you don't know how much the deceased would want me to tell that joke at that minute. It's not easy, y'all. It's not easy, but that's why I say what is easy is hearing the enemy while understanding God. Do things in your own way, because who is your messenger? That becomes the key. So, what I say is before someone dies, I think about the last time that we shared, so that when they die, I end up reliving that moment and I review how I shared it. Okay. I'm a grief thriver, a grief thriver, that I thrive through grief. Yeah. Okay. And so, it's just recognizing that what that means is that, and I'm going to put words in my mouth, Angie. A grief thriver is not that I look forward to grieving, but I gain. I know that I gain from grieving. See, think about that, y'all. What we're saying there, gaining from grieving. I see that. Okay, good. Let's see. That relationship continues even when they're physically go. I see. That's what I meant by gaining. Amen. Because I gained something in my spirit from who that person was, and now that impression that they made is now there. It's locked in. I remembered a quick flashback. The first time I was talking to an army group, and I was saying something, and I said, well, my mother used to always say, and it was the first time, how we quote our mothers and fathers throughout life. It was the first time I ever said that after my mother had actually died. So I heard me say, my mother used to always say, and that's why I say what Angie said. See, my mother was no longer physically here, but now for the first time, I had to really deal with the fact that she was not here. She was never going to update that saying. That was the last time I remember hearing my mother say, that was the last time that she ever was going to say that. And so, as I dealt with saying that to them, and I told them, I said, "Hey, that's the first time I said it, blah blah blah." But either way, that's why we gain through the thriving. And what else Angie said? You don't have to be at someone's funeral to acknowledge a relationship, and you don't. And so some people, and I got to tell you a joke that's not a joke, but some people use the pandemic as their alibi for not going to a funeral. Oh, well, I'd rather remember them the way they were. They really glad. They don't use the pandemic. You don't have to go to a funeral, and you don't. I have a good friend who says, no, she doesn't go. She goes to the viewing, but never to the funeral. Okay. And so that becomes the key, is that let's relive and review the time we shared. Angie and I haven't seen one another in years, didn't really know one another very well. We met when I was doing my speaking engagement, Oklahoma, Angie. Yikes! Pick a state. Tell me the state. And so we have a kinship. Where some people, well, he's a speaker. You really don't have a friendship with him. Yeah, we do, because we have a kinship, and so yeah, it was Oklahoma. Great. Okay. So those are the moments. See, the moments that the small amount of time was quality time that Angie and I shared. Roger Carroll, of the people on this broadcast that were on in person, Vic and I go back over 50 years. I'm with in our 60s, so that's why I say over 50, because we may not have met to maybe 5, but somewhere less than 10 years old. But that's how long we've known each other. Deborah Lorick, who was on there, I met her in junior high school, so that's in our 12. So we got 40 plus years. Roger Carroll, I met in Chicago. Roger Carroll and Bruce, I met in Chicago. And so that's 12. I was 26, 23 years in Chicago. So that's just 20 years. See, so all of these were quality relationships. And you think back to how much time you spent in those moments. I may never see any of you again, including those of you who are watching the broadcast. But did we spend a good time together? That's what I like to know. That's really all that works for me. So raise your vibe. Find your tribe. Raise your vibe. Yeah, because guess what? It is about you. Raise your vibe, find your tribe. And Angie, people are going to think you sat here writing this thing with me, because my next slide is to say, I want to know, what are your you-isms that keep you believing in your path? And see, Angie, that could be a great one. Raise your vibe, find your tribe. That's a you-ism. That's an Angieism. All right. And then Vic, Grant for life. Yeah. And Bruce, man. Oh wow, Bruce, I'm one of the things that slowed me down today. I think you remember Laraj at the Boys and Girls Club. I've become his mentor, and he had a situation he was dealing with, and he reached out to me. Now, Bruce and I, when we did volunteers work at the Boys and Girls Club, we were on the board, but we were a board that you would think we were on staff, because we worked with the kids. And Bruce, let me tell you something that Laraj said to me today. He said, Sporty, he said, as I think back to our relationship, he said, you were the first adult that, because this is back in their 14s and 13s, and he started naming some of the club members. He said, you were the first adult who I wrote my, I don't want to miss. He said that I met that respected children. He said that was one of the things that he said that concept of an adult respecting children blew him away. And then he named some of the other club members. He said, because you listened to what we had to say. Didn't I say listen to the paragraph, not the sentence? See how it all comes in? He said, you respected children and you listened to what we had to say. And it made a huge difference in our life. And now that he's in his 30s, he's calling me to say, hey, look, I need some help. And that's the mentor relationship. So think about your you-isms that keep you believing in your faith. But check it out. Once you recognize them, you will never fear being right again. So thank you. Yeah, remember, you will never fear. Don't fear being right. And I got I'm gonna give her a shout out because she's a good friend, a new friend of mine, Lois Kramer. She's one of my speaking mentors, and she will say, don't be afraid to get it right. Because so many people are afraid to get it. They say, well, don't be afraid to get it wrong. No, don't be afraid to get it right. And so don't fear being right again. And of course, I hope you continue to tune in and share in Glue Wednesday everywhere, because God's love really does undo everything. You really have to know that and believe it. As Angie say, fail forward. Good seeing you. Don't fear to be right, and be safe. And let me also say this. Thank you for being part of Glue. And remember, you don't have to hump. We have to find ways to keep it together. And you can find ways on my site that, that's one of my books. I found out I'm dying. That was my opening book that I began with my speaking business. And so that I wasn't afraid to be right about following that. So sportyking.com, refer people to it when you don't go. And let me finally say, whether or not you've been vaccinated, wearing a mask is a good precautionary step to help us continue to make gains in the war against COVID. You have the right not to, but you also have the right to. And so, that's what I would hope you would make the decision to do. But that's the decision that I've made. I don't look down on anybody for where they sit, how they see things. God bless you all. Have a beautiful day, as Angie would say, and you too, as Vic would say. Thanks again. God bless you, and stay safe. Ciao. Yeah, I'm just staying on because it's a little delay, so I'm just letting some of those final comments get up there. All right, that'll do it. Ciao.